I think this group is going to be really, really good in the fall, but it's pretty clear Kirby Smart is begging for more out of his wide receivers. He even said so after Georgia's G-Day scrimmage. I've got insider notes on that. I've got quotes from Kirby Smart and more breaking down of the wide receivers, what you should expect out of this group in 2025. So let's jump into it right now. The biggest quote that I heard from Kirby Smart after Georgia's G-Day about the receivers was, quote, "We're not where we need to be at receiver." He wants more, and that's, pretty clear, especially after that group had a really bad, let's just call it was a really bad 2024 for the wide receivers, way too many drops. He wants this group to be tough, he wants them to be consistent, and he wants them to make a lot of plays. Here's more quotes from Kirby Smart. He said, "I'm excited to see more growth, excited to see more toughness from the wide receivers. I'm excited to see what they can do in the fall. The biggest thing is to keep them healthy." I don't know what the number is, but I would bet there's 6 or 7 of them that are in their first time playing in this offense, and that takes a little time. So I thought the 6 or 7 new guys got better as the spring went on, and they got a chance to get 20-something more practices and grow even more. We're not where we need to be at receiver, but we have a good group to work with. Of course, you can read all of these quotes and more over on dawgpost.com. That's where the scoop is. That's where the 5-star Georgia fans are. And, Georgia is coming off a really big spring. There's new faces up and down the roster, a lot of new receivers. And we were there inside Sanford Stadium to watch Georgia's G-Day. So we've got plenty of notes on that, top performers, what Kirby Smart said about the receivers. I'm going to talk about what he said about the line of scrimmage, offensive and defensive line. So there's a lot to talk about. There's still a lot going on. We've got recruiting notes over on the website, so make sure you're over there checking that out. The content is still coming, right? We're entering the summer. It's going to be recruiting season, basically, for all of you who still follow recruiting, because it still matters. But we want to make sure y'all are over on the website. He was asked about Colby Young, who made a really nice touchdown grab over Daniel Harris, who I thought had a really good G-Day scrimmage. Colby Young is returning. He was, of course, suspended for basically the whole second half of the season, but he showed a lot of promise at the beginning of the season. I think he's going to be a big-time weapon for the Dogs this fall. Here's what Kirby Smart had to say about Colby Young. He said, "Yeah, he gives you problems on the outside. You're going out there and there's not a lot of defense you can have for a guy that grabs the football at its highest point." And that's what he did against Daniel Harris. The coverage was really good. He was right there next to Colby Young. Colby Young was not wide open, but it was basically a jump ball scenario where I think it was Ryan Puglisi on his first drive with the first team offense. He threw it up there, and Colby Young just jumped up over Daniel Harris and made an acrobatic AJ Green-like touchdown. I mean, it was good on good. It was good coverage, but a better play by Colby Young, and that's what he brings to this offense. He is a jump ball weapon. He's a weapon in the red zone, and he can go up and get the ball at its highest point, use his height and his size to his advantage, and that's what he did in the spring, or during the spring game. He said it forces defensive backs to have really good ball skills. The ball skills of the defensive backs sometimes are not that of a receiver, and Colby has made a lot of plays this spring on those 50-50 balls. But he's not the only kind of big physical receiver. They brought in Noah Thomas, who I think is even bigger than Colby Young as far as a height and weight standpoint. He's going to make a lot of plays. He's dealing with a little bit of an injury. I don't think he had a reception during G-Day, but had a couple targets, both incomplete passes, and then I don't think I saw him second, third, and fourth quarter. But he's not 100%, so easy to see why. But yeah, he had a lot to say about the receivers. That's what he had to say about Colby Young. He was asked about Zachariah Branch and Noah Thomas. Here's what he had to say about those guys. He said, quote, "They're learning the offense. They're in that number of guys that have to continue to grow and understand what we're doing. Zach missed 2 or 3 practices that probably hurt him in terms of getting reps and understanding the offense. You can't just say, I'm going to learn it and go out there and do it. You have to rep it. You have to go out there and physically do it." And he missed 2 of the last 3 practices, or 3 of the last 4 practices, and then he was able to go. So, that's a guy that Georgia fans should expect a lot of. I've got high expectations for him, and you saw the quickness, the explosiveness, the burst that he has. And he actually made a really big play down the field on a pass that was coming to him 20, 30 yards down the field. It wasn't a short pass. It wasn't a straight pass where he took the ball and then took off with it. I mean, he stretched the field vertically and made a play on the football. I believe it was over DeMello Jones, who was getting some reps with the first team. I forget who it was on. It may not have been DeMello Jones. It was over someone. But he went up and made a really nice play on the ball. I think it was Janelle Aguero, now that I think about it. So he's got great hands, terrific ball skills, but his speed and his explosiveness is really needed in this offense. I think he's the fastest player or wide receiver in that room. London Humphreys, I'm going to talk about in a second, is not far behind. He scored 2 touchdowns during Georgia's G-Day scrimmage, had a really nice day. Here's what Kirby Smart had to say about London Humphreys, who, did make some plays last year, emerged in that opener against Clemson, had a big touchdown against Georgia Tech. So this is a guy who brings speed and depth to the offense. He may not start, but he's a guy that they are able to rely on more and more. Kirby said, quote, "Yeah, he's way beyond where he was last year. When he came in, he wanted to be developed. He wanted to learn the offense. He understands that he can play multiple positions. He's probably the only guy, he and Dylan Bell, that can play all 3. Coach Coley did a great job of teaching those guys all 3 positions, and there's a little bit of a product today of playing multiple positions. And London's really smart. He doesn't have a lot of anxiety. He's very mature, and he's good for those kids in that room because he works really hard." So, talking about the toughness aspect, London Humphreys definitely brings that speed, toughness. He provides depth. I think he had 1 drop during the spring game, and I think he had 2 or 3 maybe last year. So, he doesn't have elite hands, but yeah, there's a lot that he brings to the table, and I do think he's going to have some type of role in the fall. Again, he may not start, but he will have a role in this offense. Sakovi White is another guy that we talked about before G-Day as a guy who could make some plays and really open some eyes. Wasn't a highly ranked kid. Georgia loved what he brought to the game. Basically outside of football, he's another tough, mature kid who can make some plays, and he made a nice diving touchdown reception that was thrown by Gunnar Stockton late in Georgia's spring game. But Kirby Smart loves this kid. Here's what he had to say about Sakovi White. He said, quote, "Sakovi made some plays today, made some really nice plays, and he catches the ball well. He's athletic. Dylan Bell went out there and played and did some extra things. The group we have, the core group that we have, is really tough and physical, and we want to continue to grow everybody to be that way." And at the end of the day, if you want to play wide receiver at Georgia, you have to be tough and physical. It's not just a pass catcher position. You've got to block on the outside. You've got to be tough on the perimeter. You've got to drive defensive backs backwards in the run game, and they're going to still throw some screens, right? They're going to get the ball out to the perimeter. They're going to have Dylan Bell run those end arounds, right? I think he's going to have more of an impact in that type of the offense in that way. So if you're on the perimeter, you've got to be able to block and open up running lanes on the perimeter as opposed to in the trenches, right? So if you want to get out there and get some playing time, you better know how to block, and because the screens aren't going away. So if you're a Georgia fan and you don't want to see the screens anymore, that's part of the offense. That's what Mike Bobo does. It really does open things up, not only vertically, but in the run game as well. You've got to be able to get the ball out quickly to your playmakers. And Zachariah Branch needs the ball. They need him to get the ball quickly and have 2 guys in front of him, a big receiver, tight end, whoever, to give him some space to run. Because if he's got space to run, he is tough to catch, and he is going to make some big plays after the catch down the field. So at the end of the day, Kirby wants more from these guys, but I think it could be probably the biggest turnaround from one position group from last year. They weren't consistent. They dropped the ball way too many times last year. And, a couple of those guys, Arian Smith and Don Lovett, guys who had some issues catching the football, they're gone. They brought in a couple new guys, Noah Thomas, Zachariah Branch, obviously, but London Humphreys is still around. Dylan Bell is still around. He's going to have an impact. Colby Young is back. He's returning. So they've got weapons. They've got size. They've got speed. And there's a lot of potential that this group has. They could be the best wide receiver core across the SEC. I still need to do research on everyone else, right? LSU's going to have their guys. Alabama's going to have their guys. I think Ole Miss has some pretty good receivers. Florida's got some young ones. Tennessee has some 5-stars that still need to live up to the hype. They don't know who's throwing it to them. But at least Georgia's got, at least one, probably two quarterbacks that are good enough to lead this team to a really special season. But if you're Gunnar Stockton, you have to love the receivers that you have. Ryan Puglisi, the same. They've got weapons. I think they upgraded that room in a big way. But at the end of the day, Kirby Smart says we're not where we need to be at receiver. He's still looking for more, but I have high expectations for that group in 2025. Thanks for watching. Of course, you can read more about this over on the website. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you over on Dawg Post.